It all started with a single, unexpected invitation. A sleek black envelope, gold trim, Meghan Markle's name printed in cursive, and in bold ink beneath it. Real time with Bill Maher. The studio lights had barely cooled from last week's episode, but already producers buzzed behind the scenes. Cameras were calibrated, guest chairs adjusted. This was no ordinary taping. Because when Meghan accepted the invitation, the tension didn't wait for the cameras to roll. It began long before. Behind the scenes, producers whispered to each other, "Is this wise?" Some were excited, others terrified. They knew Bill Maher didn't pull punches. And Meghan Markle, well, she wasn't exactly known for backing down either. Friday night, 7:43 p.m. Outside the studio in Los Angeles, a black SUV pulls up. The door opens slowly. Meghan steps out. She's poised, elegant, confident. But there's something in her, is a flicker of something unsettled. As if part of her knows this night won't end the way she planned. Bill Maher's show isn't just another talk show. It's an arena. And tonight, the gloves would come off. Inside, the audience waits. Hundreds of faces. Phones off. Drinks half-sipped. Conversations dying into silence. And then applause. Bill walks out casual, sharp, with that signature smirk that makes his fans laugh and his guests nervous. He welcomes the crowd, throws a few quick jabs at both political parties, and then smiles. His eyes flash toward the green room. "It's gonna be an interesting one tonight," he says. Cue the music. Cue the moment. Meghan walks out. The applause is loud, but it's not unanimous. There's tension. Polite clapping, mixed with held breaths. She sits across from him, legs crossed. Perfect posture. A media-trained smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Bill leans in. And just like that, it begins. At first, it's cordial. Even friendly. Bill jokes about royal protocols, about crowns and corgis. Meghan laughs. The audience laughs. But that laugh, it's practiced. The kind celebrities learn after years of interviews. Then he shifts. "So, Meghan," Bill says, "you've talked a lot about being silenced, oppressed. Do you feel free now?" A pause. She smiles. Nods. Double quotes. "Yes. I think I've reclaimed my voice." "And yet," Bill says, "you're still in the headlines every week. Does that silence usually come with Netflix deals and best-selling memoirs?" Laughter from the crowd. Meghan's smile falters. The air changes. And in that moment, it's clear. This won't be a friendly chat. "What I mean," Bill continues, "is that real oppression doesn't usually come with PR teams and global platforms. You've said the royal family was cold, even racist. But didn't you marry into it willingly?" Meghan leans forward. Her voice is calm, steady. "I married for love, not to be part of an institution." "But you stayed in it for how long?" Bill asks. 2 years, 3. Meghan nods. "We tried to make it work. And when it didn't, you left," Bill says. "Fine. But then why not just leave quietly?" The room falls silent. The audience watches, no longer sure if this is comedy, drama, or something else entirely. "You don't get to define how I process trauma," Meghan says softly. And for the first time, there's fire in her voice. But Bill doesn't blink. "I'm not defining it," he says. "I'm just asking. Why does it always seem like your pain comes with a camera crew?" A murmur from the audience. Someone gasps. And that's when the temperature drops. Meghan shifts in her seat. She's not smiling now. "I've told my story because people need to know what goes on behind closed doors," she says. "The lies, the isolation, the racism." Bill tilts his head. "And yet," he says, "you're still one of the most powerful women on the planet." Meghan exhales. "It doesn't make me immune to cruelty." "No," Bill says, "but it does raise a question. At what point does victimhood become a brand?" Silence. Raw, cold, charged. Judged. Meghan leans back. She looks at him, then at the audience, then back to him. "You think I'm branding trauma?" Bill nods slightly. "I think you're smart, strategic, and I think some people confuse attention with healing." That's when the energy shifts again. Not just discomfort now. Tension. Anger. Meghan sits up. Her voice cuts through the studio like glass. "You invite me here to mock what I've been through." Bill's face hardens. "I invited you here to talk. I just didn't promise it would be easy." In the control room, producers are whispering. Some are motioning to cut to break. Others are frozen. This wasn't in the script. This wasn't what anyone expected. And yet, no one looks away. Meghan looks around. She sees the faces, the eyes. some sympathetic, others skeptical. She closes her eyes for a second. Just one. Then she says, "Do you know what it's like to have an entire institution tell you you're imagining things? To have your husband terrified for your safety? To see headlines calling your child a monkey?" Bill doesn't interrupt. He lets the silence hang, but it doesn't soften the blow. "Do you know what it's like," Meghan continues, "to cry in the dark because no one believes you deserve to exist in that world?" Her voice breaks for a moment, and for the first time, the audience isn't sure who to side with. Bill nods. "I believe that was real," he says. "I believe you suffered." Then he adds, "But I also believe that when we turn pain into platforms, we have a responsibility to be honest about what we're doing." Meghan tilts her head. "So now I'm dishonest?" Bill shrugs. "I think you're good at media. And I think media loves a victim." Another silence. It's too quiet. Now, uncomfortable. The kind of quiet that comes right before something breaks. And then, Meghan says it. "I think you brought me here to humiliate me." Bill blinks. "I brought you here to challenge you." And Meghan stands up. She doesn't yell, doesn't storm out. She just stands taut, and with a calm that chills the room, she says, "Then we're done." The room is stunned. Bill sits still, watching her leave. The cameras are still rolling. Producers are scrambling. Lights flicker. Audience members whisper. And Meghan walks off stage, head high, shoulders tense. No one says a word, until Bill turns to the camera. "Well," he says, "that was real." The fallout began within seconds, before Meghan even reached the parking lot. Clips were already online. A 30-second video, no context, just Meghan standing up, jaw tight, saying, "Then we're done." The internet exploded. Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, all of it lit up, like a fuse. Some called her brave, others called her fragile. Most just watched it again and again, rewinding the moment her face shifted, pausing on the flash of emotion in her eyes. The world had seen Meghan Markle walk out before, but never like this. Not in real time, not unscripted, and not on Bill Maher's stage. Inside the studio, chaos reigned. Producers yelled through headsets. One shouted, "Do we cut this segment?" Another replied, "Are you kidding? This is gold." And Bill, he sat still, quiet, reflective. He wasn't smiling anymore, just watching the playback monitor like a man reviewing a decision he couldn't undo. Later that night, Bill's team issued a short statement. Bill Maher stands by every question he asked. "The purpose of this show has always been open, honest, and difficult conversations. No apology, no backtracking." And that silence, it only fueled the fire. The next morning, news anchors across networks scrambled to cover the story. Was Meghan Markle ambushed on live TV? Did Bill Maher cross a line? Is this the moment the public turns on both of them? Cable news segments ran loops of the argument with slow-motion breakdowns. Body language experts were brought in. One said, "You can see her moment of emotional detachment. Watch the eyes. She's trying not to cry." Another added, "Bill Maher, completely cold. Classic emotional detachment." And, just like that, a moment became a movement. In Montecito, Meghan stayed quiet. No statement, no press release, just silence. But that silence, it said everything. Because unlike past controversies, this one wasn't sparked by the tabloids. It was unfiltered, on camera, and raw. Even her supporters were unsure. Some said, she had every right to walk out. Others whispered, "Why does this keep happening?" And Harry, he wasn't there that night, but when the clip reached him, he was reportedly livid. Inside, sources anonymous, but well-placed, said he smashed a glass when he saw the broadcast. He baited her. Harry was quoted saying, "He set her up." He demanded apologies, demanded networks pull the episode. But they didn't. They doubled down. They aired it twice more over the weekend, and the ratings sky-high. Meanwhile, Bill appeared on a podcast days later. He wore a navy blazer, and that familiar smirk had returned. The host asked the obvious, "Bill, what happened?" He shrugged. "I asked questions. She didn't like them. That's her right. But you must have known it would blow up." Bill leaned forward. "I'm not here to babysit feelings. I'm here to challenge ideas." Meghan walked out. "That's fine. But it proves my point." The host raised an eyebrow. "What point is that?" "That we live in a culture where disagreement is treated like violence." Those words sparked another firestorm. People accused Bill of being dismissive, arrogant. Others defended him, called him brave for saying what others wouldn't. And right there, The line was drawn. Two Americas. Two narratives. One woman in the middle. Then came The View. The ladies took their seats Monday morning, steaming mugs in hand. Whoopi Goldberg began the segment solemnly. Let's talk about it. Joy Behar didn't hesitate. Bill Maher was brutal. Meghan deserves better. Sunny Hostin chimed in. She walked into that room thinking it was a conversation. It was a trap. Alyssa Farah Griffin countered. But don't we want accountability from all public figures, even royals? Whoopi leaned back. The problem is, we've turned debate into bloodsport, and when someone finally says, enough, we act shocked. The audience applauded, but the country still split. Then, finally, Meghan broke her silence, not with Oprah, not with a press conference, but with a letter, posted to her and Harry's RQL website, signed in her own hand. It read, "There is power in walking away. There is strength in knowing. When your story has been hijacked, I did not come to that show to fight. I came to speak, and I was spoken over, dismissed, not just as a woman, but as a survivor. I am not angry, but I am disappointed that pain is still entertainment. We must be better. We can be better." It was elegant, direct, and emotionally devastating. The reactions instant. Instagram posts flooded in from celebrities and activists. Viola Davis, Meghan, your strength is grace under fire. Serena Williams, always proud of you, sis. Amanda Gorman, a voice that refuses to be silenced is a revolution in itself. But on the flip side, #Meghan Meltdown began trending on XPUNDITs, mocked her. You want to be seen as royalty and a victim. Pick one. You walked out on your family. Now you walk out on tough questions too. The attacks were personal, ruthless. But Meghan didn't respond. Not this time. Instead, she vanished from the public eye. No new appearances, no statements, not even paparazzi sightings. For 3 full weeks, silence. And in that silence, the conversation grew louder. What had started as a fiery exchange became a national reckoning. Across America, op-eds filled newspapers. When pain becomes political, theater. Bill Maher was right, and still completely wrong. The fragility of modern discourse. College campuses held panels. Podcasts ran hour-long dissections. Everyone had a take, but no one had answers. Then came the letter from a woman in Birmingham, Alabama. She was 72, a retired schoolteacher, a mother of 3, a breast cancer survivor. She wrote to Meghan, I watched what happened. I cried for you, not because you were weak, but because I saw myself in your silence. I was once dismissed too. I was once told my pain was performative. You reminded me that, sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing we can do. Thank you. That letter was never posted publicly, but someone close to Meghan confirmed. She framed it. By the time Meghan reappeared, it wasn't on a talk show. It was at a women's shelter in downtown El. No media, no cameras, just a few volunteers, and a quiet afternoon spent serving meals and folding laundry. When someone asked her, why come here now? She smiled gently, and simply said, because here, no one's performing. 3 weeks after the walkout, a storm was brewing, but this time, it was behind closed doors. The media noise had settled into a hum, but something deeper had taken root. Inside Meghan and Harry's Montecito estate, the silence wasn't peace. It was tension, thick, unspoken. Because what happened on Bill Maher's show had shaken something neither of them were ready to admit. Not just the public's perception, but each other's. Harry watched the fallout obsessively. News clips, podcasts, comment threads. He scrolled until his thumbs ached, eyes scanning every cruel headline, and he was angry not just at Bill Maher, but at the world. At the press, at how easily people turned on her. But Meghan, she was quiet, withdrawn. She'd stopped defending herself, stopped explaining. And in that quiet, Harry started to ask questions he never had before. Did you know it would go like that? He asked her one night. Meghan looked up from her tea. Her eyes were tired. No, she said. I didn't. Harry hesitated. But you agreed to go on. You knew his reputation. She blinked. Slowly. You think this is my fault? He shook his head. No, I don't understand why we keep doing this. The interviews, the platforms. Meghan's jaw tensed. Because silence is complicity. But is every room worth walking into? He asked. That silence between them, it was louder than anything Bill Maher had said. Back in LA at HBO's executive offices, there were different questions. Should they invite her back? Should Bill issue a statement? And most pressing of all, was this a win or a loss? Because the numbers didn't lie. The episode had broken records, viral engagement, global reach. But the brand, it was bruised, and Bill he'd gone quiet again to no follow ups no jokes not even a snide tweet. It was as if, for the first time in years, the man who always had something to say, had nothing. Privately, he told a friend, it didn't feel good. It felt like hitting a nerve I didn't mean to find. But publicly, he stayed the course, because admitting regret wasn't his style. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, something unexpected happened. Buckingham Palace released a statement. It was short, diplomatic, but unmistakably pointed. While the royal family does not comment on specific media appearances, we reaffirm our commitment to civil discourse and mutual respect. To some, it seemed like support. To others, a veiled jab. And to Meghan, it was a gut punch. Because when she needed the firm to speak up for her the most, they hadn't. Not after the Oprah interview. Not after the headlines. But now they found their voice. To speak about Bill Maher. That night, Meghan sat in her home office. No camera, no team. Just a notebook and a single lamp. She opened it to a blank page, then slowly began to write. Not a press statement, not a PR memo, but a letter to herself. A promise, something no one would ever see elsewhere. Emails leaked from inside HBO. Between producers and Maher's staff. One in particular stood out. If she walks, let her, but keep rolling. That sentence lit a new fire online. Suddenly, people weren't just questioning the moment. They were questioning the intention. Had it all been a setup? Had Bill Maher gone too far? On purpose? The hashtag set up the Duchess trended for 2 days. Even journalists who'd stayed silent now weighed in. On MSNBC, one panelist said, "We have to talk about media ethics. If Meghan was brought on to be blindsided, that's not journalism. That's spectacle." On Fox News, a host sneered, "She's finally realizing what real scrutiny looks like. Welcome to America, Duchess." And in between those extremes, millions of people were left asking the question, who do we believe? But behind the headlines, something else was unfolding. Emails, legal briefings. Archewell's internal legal team had begun exploring options. Defamation, not likely. Malicious intent, difficult to prove, but damage to reputation. That was quantifiable. They made calls. Quiet ones. 2 former producers, 2 staffers, looking for one thing, a pattern, and they found it. Over the years, guests, particularly women, had raised concerns about Bill Maher's interview tactics. The smiling warmth during pre-show calls, the last-minute topic changes, the tone that shifted once the cameras rolled. None of it illegal, but all of it familiar. And for Meghan, it confirmed something she'd already known in her bones. Then, in the middle of this mounting storm, came the call. From Oprah. Meghan answered on the first ring. Oprah's voice was calm, grounded. "I've been watching," she said. Meghan closed her eyes. "I wasn't ready for that room," she whispered. "No one is," Oprah replied. "But the fact that you walked out, that's power." A pause. Oprah continued. "You want to sit down and talk again? No cameras, just us." Meghan let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "Yes," she said, "but not yet." Across the city, Bill sat in his dressing room. Alone, he stared at his own reflection. For a moment, he looked older. Not because of the backlash, but because something in him had shifted too. He thought about reaching out, thought about writing her. But what would he say? "I didn't mean to hurt you." He'd said that before, to others, and it never made a difference. So instead, he stayed silent. Because silence, he realized, can be self-defense too. And then came the final straw. An anonymous source leaked a video, a behind-the-scenes clip from the green room. In it, Meghan sits quietly, nervous. A producer walks in, headset buzzing, and says, "Bill's going to hit some heavy stuff early. Don't let it shake you." Meghan looks up, says softly, "It's supposed to be a conversation, not a test." The producer laughs, and walks out. That clip went viral. Within hours, people weren't debating anymore. They were outraged. Meghan's defenders were vindicated. Her critics scrambled, and HBO, they went into full damage control. A senior executive issued a rare on-air apology, not to Meghan directly, but to viewers. "This is not how we want our guests to feel. We failed to maintain the spirit of honest, respectful dialogue." But for Meghan, it was too late. The damage had been done. She re-emerged weeks later, not on stage, in front of cameras, But at a quiet charity event in San Diego, she spoke to a small room of women. No press, no fanfare, just words from the heart. Every woman in this room knows what it's like to be called difficult, emotional, too much. But the truth is, those words are often used to silence us when we get too close to the truth. She paused, looked around, and said softly, "I won't apologize for walking away from a conversation that stopped being a conversation." The room rose in applause. Back at HBO, Bill watched the speech from his phone. He said nothing, but a junior producer who saw him that day said something had changed. He wasn't defensive, he wasn't angry, just quiet, thoughtful, as if for the first time he heard her. It didn't end with a press tour. It didn't end with lawsuits or apologies shouted from podiums. It ended the way most real things do, quietly, subtly, with a ripple instead of a roar. 2 months after the Bill Maher incident, the headlines had moved on, but the impact hadn't. Because something had shifted in the culture. In conversations between women at lunch tables, in late-night phone calls, between friends who had never dared to say what hurt them, in whispered admissions from people who had once judged too quickly, and maybe, just maybe, in Bill Maher himself. The producers wanted another confrontation. Another headline. They pushed him to address it on air. To fire back. But Bill refused. He opened one show with just this. Sometimes you walk into a conversation thinking you know everything. And sometimes you leave it realizing you missed the whole point. That was all. No clips, no monologue, no sarcasm. Just a pause. And then, he moved on. But the audience didn't forget. Meanwhile, Meghan didn't disappear. She didn't retreat. She redefined. She began quietly launching new initiatives, projects for women's mental health, support programs for survivors of institutional gaslighting, scholarships for young girls studying journalism. She gave her voice to others now, not with bright lights or viral soundbites, but with presence. Intentional, grounded, real. Then came the letter from a young woman in Seattle, 20-3. First, in her family to go to college. She'd been told her entire life to turn it down, to smile more, to not take things so seriously. She wrote, "When you stood up and walked out, I watched it 100 times. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was freeing. You didn't shout, you didn't cry, you just said, then we're done. And I realized I could be done letting people tell me how to speak, done letting pain be repackaged for their amusement. Thank you for walking out and for walking forward." Meghan read that letter 3 times. And she wept, not out of pain, but release. Harry noticed the change too. There was still tension. Sometimes any marriage with the world watching would feel that. But there was also something new. Calm. Understanding. He stopped asking, "Why did you go on that show?" and started saying, "What do you need from me now?" One night, they sat under the stars in their Montecito backyard. No cameras, no speeches, just silence and cicadas. Harry turned to her and asked, "If you could go back, would you still walk off that stage?" Meghan stared into the sky, then said softly, "Yes, not because it was perfect, but because it was true." Harry reached for her hand, and in that stillness, something settled between them. Not closure, but clarity. Then came the unexpected moment. Bill Maher, sitting down for a rare long-form interview on a podcast that prided itself on empathy over clickbait. Host Older.com, with a warm voice, didn't ambush him. Just asked, "When Meghan Markle walked off your show, what were you thinking?" Bill paused. You could hear him breathing. Then he said, "I thought I won. I got the viral clip, the reaction, but afterward, I watched the full episode, and I saw a woman who didn't come to fight. She came to be heard, and I didn't let her." The host let that sit, and Bill added, "I still believe in asking hard questions, but I also believe in letting people answer." It didn't go viral. There were no explosive reactions, just quiet approval. A shift in tone. Maybe not a full apology, but something close enough to matter. Something rare, human. In the months that followed, Meghan launched a new foundation, the Echo Initiative. Its mission, to amplify voices that are often interrupted, silenced, cut short, and its first partnership, a grant to independent journalists who focus on respectful dialogue, even with those they disagree with. In her launch speech, Meghan said, "When someone shares their story, they're not asking for your agreement, they're asking for your attention." That's the start of everything. And then perhaps the most poetic moment of all, at an awards ceremony for women in media. Meghan was asked to present the keynote. To everyone's surprise, she opened with this: "Some of you know me because of what I walked away from. But tonight, I want to talk about what I walked toward." She paused. "I walked toward truth, toward myself, and I walk toward all of you. Because every time a woman stands up and says, 'That's enough,' she isn't closing a door, she's opening a new one." The room erupted, not in fanfare, but in something deeper. Respect. Back in his office, Bill Maher watched the speech on his laptop. Alone, no smirk this time, just a slow nod, and a whisper under his breath: "Well said." No re-invitation ever came, no reunion episode, and no unexpected one, because some moments aren't meant to be replayed. They're meant to teach, to sting, to settle. And so, the story didn't end with Meghan Markle being kicked off a talk show. It began with it, because in that uncomfortable, unscripted, unguarded moment, the world saw something it rarely does: a woman choosing herself. Not for the cameras, not for the clicks, but because it was time. And sometimes, that's the most powerful story of all. The one where the walk-off isn't the end, it's the beginning.